required, you're going to need a t-shirt, and I recommend getting a bigger size so that way you have more fabric to work with, and a serger since we're using stretchy knit. Alright, you're going to want to start by putting on the shirt and seeing just about how much you need to take it in. We're marking the waistline here. This is just a reference point to see where we need to take it in on the sides. So once you have your waistline marked on both side seams, go ahead and take it in and give yourself about 2-inch seam allowance on both sides. Lay the shirt out on a flat surface, then mark these points out. Now we're going to draw straight lines down the shirt based off these marks. And go ahead and do this on both sides of your t-shirt. And here's just a closer look. See that we're taking it in just a little bit on both sides, but the same amount all the way down the shirt. Just make sure not to go in too much because we can always go in more when the time comes for fitting. Next, take your scissors and then cut all the way down those lines. This is why you want to go just a little bit wider than you think, because you can always take it in afterwards. Next, you're going to want to put the shirt on inside out, and you're going to want to pin it at 3 different areas. And with these pins, definitely go as far as you can in, because from here you're going to be sewing. Pin it right under the armpit area, at the waistline, and then at the bottom. And all these points are going to be 3 different widths. You're going to see that it curves in towards the waistline and then comes back out. Now we're going to be marking where we want the neckline to fall. And for this shirt, since the graphic is really high up towards the top, we're just going to mark it as close as we can towards the original neckline. And for this part, you can definitely drop the neckline as far as you want down or make any crazy shape you want to. It really doesn't matter. It's totally up to you and how creative you want to get with it. And then the same goes for the back neckline. I do recommend keeping this neckline a little bit higher than the front. And when it comes to marking the armholes, definitely give yourself enough seam allowance so that way you have room to hem. And as you can see, we're doing a pretty standard armhole, not going in too deep, just deep enough so that way it gives a nice opening and looks clean. And you only have to make this armhole opening on one side of the shirt. This is because we're going to be folding the shirt in half when it comes time for cutting. Just make sure your lines connect on the top shoulder seam and at the bottom. And next we're going to take it a French curve and connecting our side seam points. But first you're going to mark each one of these points with some chalk. And if you don't have a French curve, you can just go ahead and mark it. Just make sure you kind of use a curve and taper it towards the bottom. In here, we just went over with black Sharpie so you can see it a little bit better. And then starting from the bottom, cut all the way up towards the top on the line you just created. And then again, when you get to the armhole, give yourself a little bit of seam allowance for hemming. Now when you have one side cut out, go ahead and fold it in half and get ready to cut the other side. And make sure you have it perfectly folded in half and nice and flattened out so you get the most accurate cut. Because you want both these sides to be as close as possible. And once you're satisfied with that fold, go ahead and trim along that edge. When cutting the neckline, just start at any point and then work around in a circle. And again, now you can kind of visualize and see where the neckline is going to fall. So if you want to go deeper, go ahead and go deeper. Next, we're going to sew just the side seams with a serger. The reason we're using a serger is because you can't really sew a straight stitch with knitted fabric, because when you stretch that stitch, it's going to break and the garment will fall apart. The serger allows for a nice flex with that knitted fabric, adding for an overall better quality and a longer lasting garment. So I highly recommend investing in a serger if you're going to be doing a lot of knitwear. This is the cheapest one we could find. It's a Brother Lock 1034. And I highly recommend checking it out. We have a link in the description for it. And not to mention, it cuts and sews, so it's going to make all your projects in the future look a lot nicer. But if you really don't want to get a serger, use a zigzag stitch. This stitch will allow for some sort of stretch. And most standard sewing machines will have a zigzag stitch feature. So once you have the side seams sewn up, go ahead and try it on and see how it fits. And this is the time to take it in just a little bit more if it feels too loose. Now we're going to be marking the middle of the bottom back. This is going to be a reference point for where we come down on the sides. We're going to be starting towards the higher hip area and then working down towards the middle of the back. And you can totally go higher on the hip if you want, or lower on the hip. It's totally up to you and what look you're going for. But go ahead and connect that close to the middle point, about 2 to 3 inches away. And these are going to be your leg openings. And as you can see, we're kind of playing around with the lines to see where we really want it to fall. And then go ahead and do the same thing for the front. And again, you only have to make these marks on one side. So once you're satisfied with your marks, go ahead and take it off and get ready for cutting. And once you have it laid out nice and flat, this is a perfect time to see if your bottom lines match up. So just like before, lay it on a flat surface and fold it in half. Make sure it's lined up all nice and perfect and flat so you get the most accurate cut. Readjust your lines if you have to, and then go ahead and cut all the way around that arch. And it may seem like it's a little wide towards the bottom, but this is because we're going to be hemming those leg holes. So with the right sides together, go ahead and serge that bottom seam. So now go ahead and try it on, see how it fits, and see if you need to make any more adjustments before you start hemming. But if you like that raw edge look and you don't want to hem it, go ahead and trim up the areas that need to be trimmed and you're good to go. But we're going to show you a few different ways to hem it to make your garment look more professional. So the first is just a basic serge all the way around every single opening. And if you're doing this method, I highly recommend using the same color thread as your shirt. It will blend way nicer and look way more professional when you're done serging all the way around those openings. And as you can see, this method kind of cleans up those edges and makes for just a cleaner look. And then again, if you're going this route, you're going to want to do this to all the other openings. And then the next technique is using a cover stitch. And this is what you see on most of the knit clothing that's in a store. The cover stitch allows you to hem the edges but also keep that nice stretch with the garment. So you'll be taking those serge edges, rolling them over, and stitching all the way around. And this adds for a really professional look. In this machine you can do a lot with. You can do swimsuits, you can do t-shirts, you can do literally any knitwear with this machine. In this singer that we're actually using, it can be a serger or a cover stitch, so I highly recommend checking out this machine in particular because you can go back and forth and not have to spend the money on both a serger and a cover stitch. And again, the same color thread as the shirt would really play a big difference on this. You can see that we're using black and you can see the stitching, but the same color, it kind of blends in and really looks nice. And then again, repeat this process to all the other openings. And there you have it, your t-shirt to bodysuit transformation is complete. We're going to be doing a lot more activewear coming up here in the future. More swimsuits, t-shirts from scratch, t-shirt transformations, knit dresses, and a bunch of other cool projects for the summer. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you next time.